G'day Raiders family, it's Bourkeys here and welcome to this week's top 10 post-match review for our game against the Knights. Before I get into the top 10, I just wanted to just say how critical it was to get that victory Friday night. With 2 home games in a row, it was vitally and critically important after the loss to Melbourne that we squared the ledger with a win. There's nothing worse than losing both games at home, particularly early in the year, but the boys were able to get that resolve. So that was a really, really big win in tough conditions. And with the Cows and the Eagles coming up next couple of weeks, sides that are not performing as well as people thought, were a real chance to really solidify our place in the top 8. And without putting the mocker on us, turn the corner after 5 games with a 4-win, 1 loss, which will be an awesome start to the year. But look, let's dive into the top 10. And the first one I want to talk about is our defence. Now, there's been a lot of really positive comments so far this year around our defence. And after watching the game back a second time on Saturday and a bit on Sunday, what I noticed specifically about our defence is how many one-on-one tackles we're doing at the moment. We're not having 2 or 3 in a tackle, which obviously drains a lot of your energy by having those people continually trying to get people down. I noticed a lot on the weekend, the likes of Jared, BJ, Nick, Josh Hodgson, Elliott, and those guys were doing a lot of one-on-one defensive work, which was just fantastic. As I said, the less energy we can spend by having 2, 3, 4 players in a tackle, the better off are we going to be, particularly this weekend against the Cowboys. All indications are it's going to be close to 30 degrees on Saturday up there, so it's going to be very hot and very humid. So we really need to conserve our energy. So those one-on-one tackles are really critical to our defensive structure, because if there's only one guy going up, then the rest of our line's basically already set. That one guy just has to get up as marker with the second marker behind him, but the rest of the defence is back and ready. The other thing I noticed quite interestingly with our defence on the weekend is we are coming up, but we're not rushing in to make a tackle. We're getting to maybe a yard in front and seeing what's being played out before we make a decision to go in. A couple of times on the weekend we really held our line terrifically well when the Knights were trying to play some footy in the second half with attack. But what we did, we didn't rush up. We held back a bit and forced them to make their play, and were able to pick off the likes of Pearce and Ponga. So I don't know whether it was just me, but I really noticed that situation in defence quite a lot, where we were holding our ground really well, but more importantly, keeping our line. The second point I want to talk about is our dummy half runs. Now, with a mobile forward pack, I noticed a little bit on the weekend the likes of Nick and Rapana and Jared were getting the ball but sort of heading back in behind the markers. And what that was causing Newcastle was not having to do much movement in defence. I don't know whether it's a ploy of ours to do that, to try and get into that space behind the play the ball, but I think with our mobility, the way we are now with our speed and our forward pack against bigger packs like the Knights were, I think our first and second runs back from a kick return should be spread wider, looking to the edges and move their and move their defence to chase us. I just felt a little bit on the weekend we were trying to drive back in behind the marker, and that's where a lot of the Knights' defence were. Now, once again, this weekend against the Cows, they've got a bigger pack, or a big pack, who do not move well laterally. So I'd just like to see our second and third tackles from a kick return try and spread to the edges a bit and make them chase over. And that may have some fractures in their line. Just something to think about. Now, the third one I want to talk about, John Bateman. Look, I'm in love with the guy already. I think a lot of people in these forums are. The guy's a machine. We're very, very lucky to have him. And I think third game in, for him to have the impact he has, is just sensational. The thing I really love about Bateman, which probably hasn't been picked up with a lot of media, is he has no history with a lot of the current NRL players. He doesn't know them personally. He doesn't know their kids. His wife or girlfriend's not friends with the other wife or girlfriend from the Bulldogs or the Knights or so on. So there's not that chemistry with some of the other players that he has. He hardly knows them, other than the English players maybe and some of the New Zealand players who he's played against. He really doesn't give 2 hoots who he's playing against. I noticed on the weekend, specifically late in the game, he was verbally in Edric Lee, which I think is fantastic. I think a lot of players get sterilised and cleansed because they're friends, as I said, because his wife's friends with the opposite halfback's wife, or their kids go to school together or they babysit. But this guy just doesn't care. So he just doesn't have that connection of emotion who he's playing against. He just gets out and rips and tears. So we've got a real winner here. Obviously a bit of a test for him this weekend with the humidity up in Townsville, but I think he'll handle that quite easily. With a later game as well, I don't think it'll impact him and Ryan Sutton a great deal. But his contribution, his impact, the big thing is his impact. I think right now my feeling is every time this guy gets the ball, something is going to happen in a positive way. And that's a really good vibe to have with our side, because if I'm thinking that, other sides are a little bit worried about what might happen with him as well. So what they tend to do then is try and get 3-4 into a tackle, try and give away a penalty or whatever. And that's great for us, because if they're thinking about what he's going to do and really mainline to Johnny Bateman, then it gives space to our other players as well around him. So look, this is a real bonus for us to have a guy of this stature come in and make the impact that he has. So number 4, I've gone for our kicking game. Certainly wasn't the best on the weekend. I think from memory, other than the 2 disallowed tries, the Knights had in total 5 sets of 7 tackles. Now, once again, heading back to point 1, our defence was able to handle that quite well, but to give away 5 sets of 7 tackles in a game is a hell of a lot by NRL standards. Yes, there were 2 that were disallowed because of tries, the Ryan Sutton one and the Sammy Williams one, which automatically were a 7-set start. But the other ones with our kicking game were a little bit rank, particularly some of Jack's kicks, Hodjo's kicks and the like. So, as I said, we just can't afford to give sides 7 set tackles, particularly 5 of them in 80 minutes. It's just way too much and is way too draining. I said during the game at half time, I'd love to see Hodjo kick out of dummy half more, particularly on surfaces like ours on Friday night where it was skidding quite easily. Jack was a little bit lost with his kicking game a couple of times. There were some kicks that were great, but the few that you get, obviously a couple of shanks and one that went dead. I just think Hodjo can take that pressure off Jack and off Sam a little bit out of dummy half with a couple of 40-20s. Couple of Hodjo's kicks early in the tackle count. 3rd tackle, I think, once attacking their line, he tried to do a grubber. Look, those sort of things are heart and mouth. If they come off, you're a hero. But if they don't, then once again, we've given the ball up quite cheaply in not the best field position. Number 5, I've gone for Aiden or Sammy. Now, to be honest with you guys, right now, if I was picking the side tomorrow, I've got to go Sam Williams every day of the week. I know there's some people that might disagree with me there, but I just don't know how you could drop Sam Williams after Friday night. You can't even have Aiden on the bench from my perspective. I don't know how bad this oblique injury is, but even if Aiden was fully fit, I would find it very difficult to bring Aiden Caesar back into the side for round 4 this weekend. I just think Sam did enough for my liking Friday night with his organisation, his defence, and just his support play, and just a really nice link man either side of the ruck, that he warrants to be dropped. The really nice thing about Sam is he plays slow in attack. So when someone plays slow in attack, most defences are all yada yada yada, where Sam playing slow, everyone just also plays at his speed. And you'll see in that try that he scored, he just threw a really slow dummy and was just able to slice through without any impact at all, or anyone even touching him. So that's a good thing about Sam. He plays slow to the line, and defences sometimes aren't used to people playing slow. So that impact as well, and that sort of and that way he can mix up his attack is a real bonus. But look, right now I think Sam Williams should definitely be halfback on Friday night versus the Cowboys. I want to talk about CNK at fullback. I thought his game, he was our best player in my opinion. I thought he was our best player Friday night. I know Hodjo and Johnny Bateman and those guys were close, but I thought he was fantastic. Bringing the ball out, his support play, I think everything he did on Friday night was really classy with a nice touch of polish. And for only 10 games in, I don't think you can ask much more of the kid. But being 23 as well, that's a good thing. He's a mature age footballer now. He may have only had 10 NRL games or whatever it is, but he's got a 23-year-old thinking. He's not 18 or 19. He's got a few years under his belt playing some lower grade football, which is always a good hard barometer of someone who's going to be successful. And when they get their chance, they're going to take it with both hands. he's definitely doing that. So look, he was awesome. Once again, looking forward now just to basically what he's doing, taking the pressure off our forwards around the ruck. He's got some beautiful footwork, as you can see by that second try. He's nuggety and he keeps moving through the line. And he's taking 2 or 3 tackles with him when he's taking the ball up from a kick return. So that's really important to our structure. Number 7, the bench. Now, I don't think enough was spoken about the bench Friday night, but I thought their impact was superb. Sia, when he came on, was brilliant as always. Havili was rugged and nuggety and really got us over the advantage line. I thought Horsburgh once again took some really gritty, crappy runs that needed to be taken, and they were. And Hudson Young, when he came on for that 20-minute period, some really solid defence, some really nice carries. Once again, I'm pretty excited about the balance of our bench. Got some good experience there, but a couple of young hard nuts who just want to get in and rip and tear. And that's a really good thing. And I think with Young and with Horsburgh this weekend, particularly against a very big Cowboys pack, their mobility and agility, I think, is going to be really crucial in Townsville, just to give us a lot more running on the edges and make the Cows really chase us around. So I think our bench had a really big impact for us on Friday night. Number 8, I've gone for second phase play. I just felt once again Newcastle were able to offload the ball and get some second phase play a little bit better than us. I don't think we're getting enough second phase play out of Papa or Elliott or those guys offloading the ball to a runner. You've got to be careful, mind you, without a doubt. You can't be pushing passes inside our quarter. But I just think we need to back our skill set a little bit. And particularly this weekend, once again, I said I keep referring back to the Cowboys, but it's going to be hot in Townsville. So the more second, third, fourth efforts we can have the Cowboys play or make in defence, the better off we'll be. If you notice the Cronulla game on Saturday, those who watched it, Cronulla were really looking for the offload a fair bit. And once they got that offload, they found some really good gaps straight down the middle of the ruck because the Cowboys couldn't recover in time to do that second or third effort. So if we get that second phase play happening, I think that's going to be a big impact for us. Number 9, I've gone to repeat sets. Once again, we've just got to try and get repeat sets as often as we can, especially at this level of competition and especially at this time of the year. I think we may have only had 1, maybe 2 sets where Newcastle dropped out to us. Once again, if we're close to their line, we've just got to have a really strong fifth tackle option if we're not going to run the ball for a try of just getting that kick in the in goal. Once again, it's basically the grind or the 1%ers, whichever way you want to look at it. But those repeat sets are so crucial to giving enough that momentum and that confidence and getting that scoreboard ticking over. So we've really got to try and aim up on those repeat sets and make sure we're really clinical and have a real fine detail to making sure that we get those repeat sets as often as possible. The last one I've gone for Jack's attack. Watching Jack on the weekend, he had another solid game in attack. I think his defence was outstanding, but in attack he just seems to be standing a little bit flat on that left edge when he's getting the ball. I'd like to see him probably take a little bit of his fullback play into account and maybe run onto the ball like Blake Austin did very well when Blake was playing that left edge. He quite often would take the ball at speed and run onto it as quickly as he could, keeping his edge players way behind him, and then he was able to get his speed and his step working before he hit the line. I'd like to see Jack maybe just have a little bit of his old fullback play come into the equation where he's taking the ball at speed with Jared and Nick and maybe John Bateman if he's on that left edge again, or whoever is going to be on that edge again, just taking that ball at speed before he looks for his offload. With a big body like Jack's, even if he can't get the ball away, he's still going to have some impact by taking 2 or 3 defenders with him, and that's really critical for that next roll on out of dummy half. So yeah, just maybe like to see Jack just explore his speed off the mark and taking that ball before he looks for his support plays. So guys, that's my top 10 for this week. Once again, always love to hear your feedback, either good or bad. Looking forward to the week ahead. Big game against the Cows on Saturday, guys. Have a great week. This is Bourkeys, Bleed Green, out for now. Bye.